Hey guys, it's Alicia Rain and welcome back to my channel, Rainy Reads. I'm finally filming a video, you guys. It's been a long time since I filmed a video. I think 2 months. I'm really hoping not 3. By the time this video goes up, it'll probably be closer to 3 months. I've barely had time to read the last few months, let alone film content for you guys. And since this channel is mostly around books, I just haven't had anything to film. However, this week I am going on a trip, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping to read some, so I'm going to bring you guys along with me. I don't really know what this video is going to be, if I'm just going to have it cover the trip, if I'm going to do a week, or if I'm going to have this cover the whole month. I'm more so leaning towards another monthly reading vlog. I just picked up my camera and started filming because there's no other way that I'm going to start doing a video if I just don't do that. I overthink a lot. And I'm like, oh, well, I gotta film it here because the lighting's better. I don't care. I just want to put a video out. I miss creating content here on YouTube as well as my Bookstagram because I wasn't posting a lot last month on my Bookstagram either. So I'm gonna get out of my head and just film stuff for the fun of it and not be super technical about everything. My trip is tomorrow. I'm going with my mom and my gram. We're going to Holland, Michigan for the Tulip Festival, so I'm really excited about that. And I'm also hoping to get a decent amount of reading done while I'm there. And I've just been trying to get ready for this trip. I went and got my nails redone. I went for the French tips with black instead of white, which is like my classic go-to. I haven't done it in a while. And I went shopping, got some snacks for the road. I also got some sushi and an energy drink, so I'm gonna have that for a late lunch. And I'm gonna be up for a while. I have to do laundry, clean my room, pack for this trip. I haven't packed anything yet. Figure out what books I'm gonna bring. I am reading or rereading Addie LaRue right now for my 3rd time, I believe, and I'm going to tab it this time and annotate it a little bit, so I'm excited about that. I know I'm going to bring that with me, but I want to figure out another book for a backup just in case I somehow finish that one. I will talk to you guys again once I get farther into my books or I'm back from the trip. Alright guys, it's been a minute since I've updated you. I've been home from my trip for a few days now, but I did finish Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and I have some mixed feelings on this. I'm gonna wait until the end of this video to do my final ratings for all of the books that I read. Right now, I'm leaning between a 3 and a 3.5 star rating for this book, which is honestly a little disappointing. I loved the Six of Crows duology so much. I gave both books 5 stars, so I was really hoping that this book at least was gonna get a 4-star rating or higher. It's not that I thought that this was a bad book. I feel like this was a good first book in a fantasy series to kick the story off. I loved the world building, I loved the magic. However, I just did not care for our main character, Elena. She was getting on my nerves, and I'm just hoping that I like her character more as the series progresses. I feel like she just needs some development. I feel like she was not really making a lot of decisions for herself. I feel like she was just constantly doing what other people wanted in this book. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stand by that statement. I want her to start making her own decisions and not doing what other people are expecting of her or wanting her to do. Now, one could argue that she did do that towards the end, but Girly was going to stay exactly where she was, and I'm trying to be super vague about this because I want this to be spoiler free. I don't want any spoilers in here. But yeah, I just need more from her character. My favorite character in here for sure is the Darkling, and I don't know what that says about me, but I really like him, and I want to know more about him, and this is honestly making me want to give the show a try on Netflix, Shadow and Bone. However, I'm pretty sure they combined Six of Crows and Shadow and Bone, or there's just characters from Six of Crows showing up in this show, and I'm intrigued to see how they put those two stories together. I did look at the map for the second book, and it seems like it covers more area, and Ketterdam is on that map. It wasn't on the map in the first book, so I don't know if characters from Six of Crows are going to make an appearance. I don't know where in the Grishaverse timeline this takes place compared to Six of Crows. I think it would be fun if those characters made an appearance in here, but I don't think that that's going to happen. I really don't know much about this trilogy, just like I didn't really know much about the Six of Crows duology when I went into it. Now, I don't know if I want to start reading the second book or if I want to break. I do have the audiobook for one day available, so I might pick that up. I'm slowly going back into reading multiple books at a time, and that's just because my attention span sucks, you guys. I used to read 3 to 4 books at the same time all of the time, and then last year I started only reading 1 book at a time, and it was really nice. But I don't know what happened within the last few months. My attention span is so bad. I am technically reading Addie LaRue still, but I think I want something different. I do want to just drive somewhere and read because it is nice out. I don't want to be stuck in my house. So I'll bring you guys along with me. My battery just died, but I was just wrapping up this little check-in. I have some errands I need to go and do, so I'm gonna run and do those, and then I'm gonna drive to this boat launch, I think, by my house, because the parking lot overlooks the lake and it's really nice out actually, so I feel like that'll be a good reading spot. And I still haven't decided what book I'm gonna bring next, so I'm just gonna bring the second book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy and one day, and I'll just decide when I get there which one I want to read. Who knows, maybe I'll read both, but I will update you guys again once I get a decent way into whatever book or books that I pick up next. Alright guys, so it's a big time jump later, like I'm talking weeks later, because as I was going to edit this video, I realized over half of my footage was gone. So all of my thoughts for Siege and Storm and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and other things with One Day is just gone, and all my final thoughts as well. So instead of having a very short video, I'm going to combine this reading vlog with another reading vlog I was going to do in June and then just put it out towards the end of the month because it is like mid-June now as I'm filming this clip that you're seeing. So I'm going to go over the books that I read in May, and then I'm going to tell you what books I want to read for the rest of this video. So I'm pretty sure the last clip that was shown was me going to the bow launch to start reading Siege and Storm in one day. So I'm going to try and pick up where that left off. I did end up DNFing one day. It just wasn't for me. I really couldn't get behind the writing. I'm hoping that I enjoyed the show more because I still want to give the show a chance. But yeah, I just was not a fan of this book, so I'm going to fully DNF it. I think I got about 34% of the way into the book. And I also realized watching back the clips for this reading vlog, I never actually explained what any of the books were about. Basically, in this book, we're following our two main characters, Dexter and Emma, and they meet one day at college, and it's covering many years, and they keep meeting up to hang out. They have a friendship, but they both have feelings for each other and won't admit it to the other person, so it's that kind of book, which I'm not going to say I'm not usually a fan of stories like that. Just something about this wasn't working for me. Then we have Shadow and Bone and Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. I only read the first two. I'm going to read Ruin and Rising at some point. It's just not super high on my priority list right now. I ended up giving Shadow and Bone 3.5 stars and Siege and Storm 3 stars. And in this story, we're following our main character, Elena Starkov, and she is in the army, and one day they enter the Shadowfold, which is this very dark place full of really terrifying monsters. And it's not a spoiler, but while she's in the Shadowfold, Elena ends up finding out that she has magic, and it grabs the attention of the Darkling, who is like the leader of the elite, I guess you could say, the elite army of Grisha. And so he wants to work with Elena to try and get rid of the Shadowfold completely. And so that's the story that we're following in this trilogy, and I'm trying to keep it super vague because I didn't know much going into it, and I also don't want to enter spoiler territory, and I can't really say much about Siege and Storm. Elena was growing on me a little bit more in this book because she was, I feel like, making more decisions on her own and less for other people. I will say I was disappointed because there wasn't much of the Darkling in book 2, and I really want to know more about him, and the second book seemed like more of a setup for the third one. And I did like the side characters that we met in there, and yeah, that's pretty much all of my thoughts on it. I can't get too specific about it, but I do want to continue it. Like I said, I just don't know when I'll reach for the third one. And then the last book I read in May was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I gave this 5 stars, and I also tabbed this one so much. I'm hoping this focuses for you guys. Hold on. Like, I went crazy on the tabs, and this might not seem like a lot of tabbing for some people, but for me it is. And I just absolutely love this book. This book starts off in France in the year 1714, and we're following Addie, and she is going to get married off, and that's not what she wants for her life. She wants to be able to do her own thing, travel, explore the world, and she really wants to try and be like her neighbor in town, Estelle, who's just very firm in her beliefs and what she wants. And Estelle prays to the old gods, and she warns Addie to never pray to the gods that answer after dark. And Addie has been praying to try and find a way out of this marriage, and it's the day she's supposed to get married, so she runs off into the woods and decides to pray one final time, and she doesn't realize that the sun has set, and something comes and answers her wish, and it completely changes the course of her life. And this is not a spoiler because it's on the back of the book, and I feel like a lot of people know this already, but the deal that she makes it that she is able to be free and do what she wants, but that means that no one is going to remember who she is. So we're following her for 300 years, flashing back from past to present time, and just seeing all that she's gone through, the connections she's made but not really made because no one remembers who she is. And this book just really talks a lot on the importance of human connection and sharing experiences with other people. And again, it's not a spoiler because it's on the back of the book, but she ends up going into this bookshop during present day, and the boy that works there remembers who she is, and she's trying to figure out why after 300 years is someone finally able to remember who she is. So we get dual POV. We do get perspective from her and also the boy from the bookstore, and I just relate to both of those characters so much. The boy's name is Henry, and this is my third time reading this book, and the first time I think I only gave it 4 stars. Then I reread it the second time and I gave it 5 stars. I still forgot some things about this book when I went to read it this time around, and I was just so much more connected to this book than I ever was, which I didn't think was possible, but I just see so much of myself in Addie and Henry, and it was emotional for me. I know a lot of people get emotional reading this. This is more character driven than plot driven, I would say, which I know turns some people off, but I highly recommend this book, you guys. If you haven't given this a chance, please do, because it's one of my all-time favorite books, and I feel like everyone should give it a chance and read it. Alright guys, so those are all the books that I read in May, and the video that I was going to do in June was reading LGBTQIA plus books for a weekend, because this month has been incredibly busy for me, and a lot of stuff just happened in the beginning of the month that I was not planning on, like personal family stuff going on, which stopped me from doing this update sooner, and why it's the middle of the month. Everything's good now. It was just it was a lot in the beginning of the month, and I did not have the mental capacity to worry about a vlog, so that's why this video is going up late on top of the missing footage. I know I don't have to explain myself, I just feel like I do because I haven't posted in so long, but it's just been a year, you guys. I want to share with you the books that I'm going to try and read this weekend, so I'm not going to be covering every single book that I read in June, because I just don't think that that's going to be possible. Like I said, I'm going to be so busy, but I still wanted to have this video be a little longer and do a video with these books because I'm really excited to read these. So I have 3 books here, 2 physical, 1 on my Kindle, and that is something that I need to update you guys on. I ended up buying a Kindle from the last footage you saw and now, and I absolutely love it. I got these cute little, I don't know, they're not stickers, they were just things that I had for a scrapbook or journal, and I haven't used them yet, so I put them in here because I thought it went well, like all the plants with the green color that I got. But I have read a book on here already. I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I loved it so much. I read it so fast. I wasn't expecting to fly through ebooks on here, but I did, so I'm excited about that. I feel like I'm gonna get a lot more reading done now that I have this. But yes, I have 3 books here. I don't really know much about any of them, and that's how I like going into books, is almost completely blind. So I'm just gonna tell you what I know about them. So the first one I'll talk about is Annie on My Mind by Nancy Garden. This book, I believe, came out in the 1980s, and it's about 2 lesbians falling in love in high school, and this had a lot of pushback in the schools. I believe they were trying to ban this book from the shelves, which makes sense considering the time period, but I've heard a lot of great reviews about this. It has a good rating on Goodreads, and it means a lot to people, so I'm really excited to read this one. I don't think I've read a book about 2 lesbians before, so that'll be new for me. And the other book that I really want to read is She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quindlen, I believe is how you say this author's last name, and all I know about this one is that it's a sapphic, enemies to lovers, fake dating, rom-com, sports romance. That's a lot to say, but I've never read a sports romance before, so I am excited about that. I've been loving rom-coms and contemporary romance. I love a good sapphic romance, so I am looking forward to getting into this. And the other book that I want to read is Call Me By Your Name. I haven't seen the movie before. I know a lot of people probably recognize this title, whether it be from the book or the movie. I also don't know much about this one, just that it takes place in the 80s in Italy during the summer, and I know there is an age gap in here, and I don't know why, but I do know that the older one is staying in the younger one's guest house. So I'm sure I'll figure out why that's happening, but this is more of like a coming of age, first love story. So yeah, I know I just said a million times that I'm looking forward to all of these, but I am. I'm very, very excited. I haven't really thought about which book I want to read first. I'm kind of thinking I want to go with this one just because I haven't read a sports romance and I'm very intrigued. And this cover is so cute, by the way. Can we take a moment to appreciate this? I love it so much. Yeah, I think I'm going to start this one. I'm going to read a little bit of this and update you guys when I get a decent way in and tell you my initial thoughts. Alright guys, I just got to page 90 and I'm really enjoying this book so far. So we are following our two main characters, Scotty, who is a basketball player, and Irene, who is a cheerleader. And the book starts off with Scotty at one of her basketball games, and on the opposing team is Scotty's ex, Tally. And it really gets Scotty in her head, and she's not paying attention when she leaves the school parking lot, and neither is Irene as she's backing out of her space in the lot, and they both end up crashing their cars. And this results in Scotty having to give Irene rides to school, which this becomes all everyone wants to talk about at school because Scotty is more reserved and to herself and doesn't usually get noticed by people, but Irene is the head cheerleader and one of the most popular girls in school, and word is spreading, and Tally ends up finding out through social media and is messaging Scotty, and it seems like she's a little jealous, so it gives Scotty the idea to try and strike a deal with Irene, because Irene has a lot going on right now. She is head cheerleader, she's very passionate about cheerleading, but she's also very passionate about her schoolwork and academics, and she's trying to get into this college, and she really wants to win the Student Athlete of the Year award and prove to people that cheerleading is a sport. But like I said, she's already struggling to juggle the two right now, especially after this car accident situation, because she's going to have to get a job to pay her mom back for the car repairs, and she's really worried she's gonna have to drop cheerleading. So Scotty is wanting to pay Irene to fake date her so she can try and get Tally back, and that way Irene doesn't have to quit cheer and can try and win this award and pay her mom back. And that's exactly where I ended in the book. I haven't gotten any farther than them agreeing to do this, so I'm really excited to keep reading and see what happens next. I'm only maybe a third of the way through, not even, but I have been reading it pretty quick, so I feel like I'll be able to finish this tonight, which is good for me because like I said, I want to try and read all these books this weekend, so it looks like I'll most likely be able to read a book a day. But yeah, that's all I have to update you on, so I'm just gonna keep reading. Okay you guys, I just finished She Drives Me Crazy, and I really liked this book. I don't know what I'm gonna rate it yet, but it was just so good. I really like the characters in here. I'm gonna wait again to tell you guys my final ratings, but yeah, I wasn't expecting to like it this much, and I'm just really glad that I did enjoy it this much. Scotty was getting on my nerves for a big chunk of this, but I really liked seeing her struggle with trying to move on from her ex. Her ex was her first love, which is like super intense, and she's trying to navigate getting over Tally while also battling catching feelings for Irene, and I just really appreciated them putting that in there. So I did like seeing that journey, and I did like Scotty's character development throughout this book. However, Irene, I loved Irene the whole time, honestly. Like, she was great. I really liked her character. And the tension between those two and the banter was so good. And there were so many 80s song and movie references in this book, which, if you know me, I love 80s movies and 80s songs so much. My parents were born in the 80s, so they had me growing up on that stuff my whole childhood, so it just has like a special place in my heart. So yeah, I don't know. Is this gonna be a 5-star read for me, you guys? I really didn't think this was gonna be a 5-star book. I'm gonna have to think about it. I don't know. For a second, I was thinking it was gonna be a solid 4. And then it just kept getting better, and I just don't give 5 stars out very often, so I'm really gonna think about this though before I settle on it. I don't think I'm gonna start my next read tonight though, just because I've been reading a lot today, but I will decide in the morning which one I pick up next, and I will let you guys know my initial thoughts then. Alright guys, it's way later in the day. This morning I did start reading Annie on My Mind. I then had to go out and do some stuff, and then I got distracted watching Jujutsu Kaisen. So that's why I've barely read today, but I do want to do a check-in before I just keep reading. So this book takes place in New York. We're following our two characters, Liza and Annie, and it starts off with them running into each other at a museum, and they hit it off instantly and exchange numbers. But this story is getting told from Liza's perspective, so she's like our main character, and we did follow her at school, and she is the student council president, and she got in trouble because this girl Sally was doing piercings in the basement of the girls' room, and Liza didn't report it to the principal. So Liza and Sally both ended up getting suspended for 3 days. That's really the only plot that's happened, I feel like. I feel like this book is more character driven than plot driven, because we had that happen, and then the rest of the story so far has just been Liza and Annie meeting up and getting to know each other more and hanging out. There isn't really a constant plot throughout the book. Like, I don't even think that the suspension is going to come back into play until maybe later in the book. I really don't know. So even though that the story is slower and not much is happening, I'm still enjoying it though. Like, it's very wholesome. You can very obviously tell that there's more there between Liza and Annie than just friendship. You can tell that they both like each other. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and like I said, it is reading slower, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this whole book just because it is almost 7 p.m. now today. I will let you guys know if anything else happens, or if I just read through and update you at the end. I will let you know my final thoughts. Alright, it's the next morning, and I stayed up late last night to finish Annie on My Mind, and I really enjoyed that book. I'm gonna try and be super spoiler free for the ending because there are some things that I want to talk about. So the plot with the principal in the school does continue on into the rest of the book, although it stops being more focused on the situation with the ears getting pierced and more on something else. And the reason why the principal is being so, I want to use the word crazy about it, is that she's worried about the school's reputation because the school is already possibly going to close. So she's trying to do a campaign and fundraiser to raise money, and she's really trying to make sure all the students stay in line for the image of the school, and hopefully more parents will want their kids to go to the school. So that's why she's being so crazy about everything. And I really can't say specifically what happens towards the end, but you could probably see in my footage that I took that I was getting very frustrated and angry towards the end of this book just because of things that were happening and what our main characters had to go through. I did really enjoy seeing our main characters interact with the others' families, and it was super cute and wholesome, and there were a lot of good, sweet, wholesome moments in here, but also like really raw and emotional moments as well, which I feel like makes this such a good book. And something that I really appreciated about this book is the author writing about Liza coming to terms with her sexuality, because Annie, for the most part, is pretty sure about being a lesbian. Liza, this is the first time she's really experiencing these strong feelings, and she's like going back, replaying moments from when she was younger, putting pieces together, figuring out and discovering that she does like the same sex. So yeah, it was done very well. In my opinion, I was able to relate to Liza a lot with those thoughts and those overwhelming feelings, and trying to accept that part about yourself, especially with society, especially when this book was taking place. And I can see why so many people have such a strong connection to this book and these characters. It's like having a glimpse of yourself in these characters, which is always a good feeling to have when you can see the representation and you can see yourself in a book. And especially in the 80s, it's not very common to see characters like that, queer characters, in books. So yeah, I feel like this book did a really good job with that, and I would recommend it. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I think how I found this book was I just looked up sapphic romances on Google, and it came up on Google, and I was reading more about this. Not only was this book banned in schools because of the material, it was also burned in some cities because of the representation in here, and they didn't like the agenda that it was pushing on young people, which is just still mind-boggling to me that things like that even have to happen. But yeah, I'm not going to get into a whole rant on that, but I will say I definitely recommend this. Like I said in earlier clips, it is slower, so keep that in mind, and there are trigger warnings of homophobia in here, especially towards the end of the book. I'm going to start reading Call Me By Your Name. I'm very excited about this. I don't know how to say the author's last name. I think it's Andre. I don't know if it's Asaman or Ackerman. I've enjoyed both of the books that I've read this weekend so far, so I'm really hoping we can go 3 for 3 here. And I have heard a lot of mixed opinions on this one, I will say. I do know of some scenes in this book, or a scene in particular, that people talk about, and I honestly don't know what to expect with it. I just know that a lot of people don't like it, so we'll see. And as a girl that loves short chapters, this is going to be a little rough for me, because I believe this is only divided into 3 parts, and they're long. I'm going to read all of part 1, and then I might go into part 2 a little bit before I give an update. It just depends on if I have a lot to say or not. So I will talk to you guys then. Alright, so I only read to part 1, but I am going to do an update now because I'm thinking that things are going to kick off more once part 2 starts. So basically we're following our 2 main characters, Elio, who is 17, and Oliver, who is 24. Elio's family lives in Italy, and every summer they allow people from America, like artists, musicians, or like professors, to come stay with them for a few weeks, and Elio's father will help them with their academic work or the work that they're doing. And I believe Elio's father is also working on something himself. So Oliver this year is the one that's coming to stay with them, and I think it's like about 6 weeks, they said. So I think 3 weeks have already been covered in the first part, because I do remember him mentioning 3 weeks going by, and this is from Elio's perspective, and this is not what I was expecting this book to be like. I want to say that it's kind of crazy, but I feel like there's definitely more wild books out there. It's mostly just us in Elio's head, and seeing how as soon as he sees Oliver arrive at his house, he's immediately obsessed. Like, he's so infatuated with him, wants to know everything about him, just wants him to talk to him all the time, constantly trying to know where he's at. If he's not at the house for long periods of time, he gets anxious. He wants to know the other connections that Oliver is making and the relationships that he's making, and gets jealous when Oliver is spending time with other people. He's just very much, like, textbook definition obsessed with this man. And yeah, I don't know what I thought the age gap was going to be. It is a little bigger than I thought originally. I have no idea what to expect. And there was a scene that I think could have been the scene that I was talking about in the beginning, but people were making it seem crazier than it was. So I don't know if it's different in the movie or if something similar happens on a more crazy level later in the book. I have no idea. This book in general has been somewhat jarring, just because I wasn't expecting it to be written the way that it was. I have no idea what to really think about this right now. I'm going to take a little break. I think I'm going to go and grab food somewhere for lunch. I was going to consider making something, but but I don't feel like doing that. So I'm gonna go out, get something, maybe bring it back, and then I'll get back into reading. If something wild happens, I'll do an update as long as I can say enough without spoiling anything. If not, I will see you guys once I finish this book. Alright, you guys, I finished Call Me By Your Name a little bit ago, and I have no idea what to rate this book because I did and I didn't like it. I mostly didn't like it. I don't know. I feel like there was so much hype surrounding this. People were talking about how amazing of a romance story that this is. And I know is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. I did look at reviews on Goodreads though when I finished, and I wasn't alone in my thoughts on this. I just didn't find this romantic. I didn't. Maybe part of it is because of how it was written and it was always in Elio's head. There was really not much dialogue. It was stuff that he was daydreaming about or dreaming about and then reality. I don't know. There was just something about this that put me off. And that scene in the beginning was not the scene that everyone was talking about. When I got to that scene, I knew that that's what people were talking about. But I don't know. I am disappointed. I would be lying if I said I wasn't. There's just something missing from this for me. I honestly didn't really care for the two characters much. I didn't believe the romance in here. I believed the attraction to each other, but the actual like romantic aspect of it, I couldn't see it. Like, it was very obvious they were attracted to each other. Maybe it's portrayed differently in the movie, which I am still intrigued to watch the movie. I think I'm gonna settle on a 2-star rating for this, which is not what I wanted to give this book, but that's just how I'm feeling. And I know that a lot of people will probably disagree with me on that, but hey, that's the beauty of people's own opinions. Not everyone's gonna agree, and that's fine. This one just wasn't for me. I'm going to tell you my other ratings for the other 2 books that I read this weekend. So this one's gonna be 2 stars. I'm gonna settle on a 4-star rating for Annie on My Mind, and I'm gonna give She Drives Me Crazy a 4.5-star rating. It was very close to a 5 for me, but once I thought about it a little bit more, I settled on a 4.5. I'm sorry this vlog was a little all over the place, but I'm happy to be back and making videos. I really want to try and be more consistent with that, even if it's just 1 video a month, because I really miss making videos here on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you all are doing well. Let me know of any good books that you've read recently. Leave me the recommendations down in the comments. If you've read any of the books that I read in this vlog, let me know what your thoughts were on them. Whether they were similar thoughts to mine or not, I would love to hear them, and I will see you in the next video.